I'm going to mute you now. Oh, you already muted yourself. Thank you, Robin. All right, so we are going to get started. Today, I want you to start sitting in whatever your favorite position is to sit. So you might sit on a block, you might sit on a blanket, you might sit on your feet. We're going to start sitting, and that's what we're going to do first. And so I want you to find your seat, and then I want you to close your eyes or soften your gaze towards the floor. And then just take a couple of breaths here to settle into the shape. And you might notice first when we find ourselves in our seat where you want to plant your hands, where it feels like you can really just let the hands settle into the legs or into the lap, and where it allows the shoulders to just soften down the back, where you'll start to find the shoulders drifting over the tops of your hips. And then notice from there what that allows to have happen in your head, where you can maybe draw the ears back over the shoulders, and maybe the neck elongates, maybe the head draws back just a little bit. And then notice what's happening in the jaw. If you can relax the tongue and the mouth. And then I'd like you to just take a couple of breaths. And as you take these first few breaths, you just notice what's happening right here and right now. Our focus today is going to be on Svidhyaya, one of the yamas and the niyamas. It's the one that's focused really on self-inquiry. And it could be self-inquiry because you're reading things that help you change your perspective of the world, but it could also be self-inquiry where you turn inward and you start to become more aware of where feelings, where memories, where thoughts, where emotions, where they're all embedded in our body. And as you're here for these next few breaths, I'd like you to start to deepen your breath. So you might start to tone the back of the throat. And you might start to draw in that Ujjayi pranayama so you can hear the breath coming in through the nose and start to hear the breath exiting through the nose. And as you engage in this practice, again, you're just starting to notice, is there a way for you to notice if the inhale and the exhale are even, both in length as well as quality, maybe even volume? And if they're not, that's okay. As Erica said moments ago, awareness is the first step. So take 2 more breath cycles here, just on your own. And then at the end of your second exhalation, gently guide your hands to heart center Anjali Mudra. Once your hands find themselves in heart center, really feel the right hand press into the left hand press into the right. Notice the weight of the thumbs into your sternum and then lift the sternum in towards your thumbs. From here, you'll softly dip your chin towards your chest and start to crawl yourself forward onto hands and knees. When you find yourself forward in hands and knees, we're going to find our fun, static back position. So these are our sad, non-happy cows if in California. And your head drops, and your belly drops, and your hands press down. And then you just begin again to return to that breath. What does the inhale feel like? What does the inhale sound like? And then what does the exhale feel like? What does the exhale sound like? Our attention, our awareness is our most precious resource. And so we're just going to spend a bit of time here noticing what you notice. Those of you that sit a lot might notice that as you continue to push the arms straight and draw the shoulder blades together on your back, you might feel stuff work, move, open, strengthen. You might also feel just a sense of tightness. Whatever you happen to notice, that's okay. You just complete your awareness or complete the breath and draw your awareness to the sensation. All right. From here, we're going to do something very awkward. So I'm not going to lie, it's going to be awkward. You're going to start to curl your tailbone under, keeping everything above your spine the same. And then you'll keep curling your low belly under. And then you'll start to pull your front ribs under. And then you'll start to pull your middle ribs under. And then you'll start to draw your chest under. And then your head will drop a little further. And suddenly we find ourselves in cat pose. And when you're here in cat, let's isometrically pull our hands back towards our knees a little bit and our knees forward towards our hands. Push down into your hands and then wide. And then notice what happened to your breath there. On your next in-breath, you'll start to lift just your tailbone up. And then you'll start to tip the tops of your hips forward, and then just the low belly, and then just the low ribs, and then just the middle ribs, and then just the upper ribs, and then just the collarbones. And then the neck comes forward and the head lifts, and we find ourselves in cow. Fantastic. On your next exhale, we're going to do that slowly again. So tailbone kills under, bless you. And then low belly, and then middle ribs, and then upper ribs, bless you, then upper ribs, then neck, and then finally your head. And then again from the tail, just starting at the articulation of the pelvis, keeping your upper back still in cat as long as you possibly can, feeling all of the different muscles and all the different bones start to articulate. Fantastic. Here's your last one on your own. But again, you're starting from the tail. You're keeping the upper back in cat or cow as long as you possibly can. There you go. And then once you finally get all the way into cat, you again find cow, again, not letting the upper chest round any sooner, or rather come into extension any sooner than it possibly can. Fantastic. After this cow, we'll find ourselves into a neutral spine. Go ahead and walk your hands forward about 12 inches or 6. It depends upon how long your arms are. And then we're going to start to reach our hands forward as we reach our pelvis back, and we're going to reach our forehead forward and maybe down. And you just take a couple of breaths here, noticing if you can push down into your hands and then isometrically pull your hands back. And then as your hands come back, we draw our hips back. And then we see if we can draw our front ribs away from the floor just a smidge. Yep. And notice what that does to the low back. Nice job. Check in with your breath. Great. On your next in-breath, we're going to come up to hands and knees once again. And then from hands and knees, we're going to make our way to an awkward plank pose. So some of you will just walk your hands forward. Some of you will walk your knees back, and we'll be in a diagonal from our knees through our shoulders, through our head. Fantastic. From here, let's pull our heart forward one more time, lift up through your crown, and then as you exhale, lower all the way down, slower than you want to. When you find yourselves on your abdomen, you might choose to put your block under your head or your blanket under your head. It's completely up to you. But we're going to cactus our arms out in a 90-degree angle. And then with our hands at that 90-degree angle, let's go ahead and look towards our right. Step our right hand underneath our right shoulder, and then you're going to roll towards your left. And I found this week, at least, I've enjoyed having a blanket or a block underneath my head because it changes the sensation that is experienced on the left side of the chest. And so you notice if you want to try that or not, but you just pause and you breathe, and you pause and you breathe, and you start to become aware of what's happening in the body right now, what's happening in your breath. Our self-study doesn't always have to be super intense, but sometimes it can be. On your next in-breath, go ahead and come back through center. And then when you're ready, you'll exhale and go to the other side. So right arm goes out to the right, left hand steps underneath your left shoulder, and then start to push into the left hand and roll to the right. And just notice if you notice a difference. For some reason, it feels, to me at least, having my head slightly elevated, it changes the sensation across the chest. Sure does, right? It's crazy, right? And then you just take a pause and you take a breath. Fantastic. As you're ready, let's go ahead and inhale, come back onto the belly. From here, bring your hands alongside your hips. You can remove whatever you were using underneath your forehead. And with hands alongside our hips, palms face down, let's try to come into cobra from our pelvis. So your pubic bone's going to come forward, your belly button's going to come forward, your sternum's going to come forward, and then you'll start to lift your head and your neck. And then you'll draw the shoulder blades together on your back and see if you can lift the sternum a little higher, the ears a little higher. From there, start to crawl your fingertips back and then maybe float your hands up and away from the floor. Fantastic. From here, draw your shoulder blades together, reach your fingertips back, and then engage your glutes. So you might squeeze your little butt cheeks a little bit, and then you might reach back through your toes, and you might float your legs up and away from the floor. And then notice if you can then draw the pubic bone forward, the sternum forward, the chest a little higher. Fantastic. We'll breathe for 3. We'll breathe for 2. We'll breathe for 1. Gently lower all the way down. Go ahead and plant your hands alongside your ribs. Curl your toes under, and then inhale through hands and knees. keep your toes curled under and press yourself back to child's pose. Now, this is weird. Toes are curled under, so you'll just notice if this feels a little different. Little different. I know, I'm sorry. I feel like it's a good prep though. And then you just pause and you breathe. And then when you're ready, you'll inhale and you'll come to hands and knees. From there, exhale, downward facing dog. Now here's our first down dog. And for today, let's go ahead and widen our feet about hip distance apart. Bend your knees just a bit. And then again, we're going to check in with those hands. So we're going to push from our shoulder blades down into our hands. And then see if you can draw your front ribs into your back body, your hips up to where the wall and the ceiling meet. And then maybe just bend your right leg a little more and straighten your left leg. Breathe into the back of your calf as you notice what's happening there. Keep lifting up through your happy inner armpits. Yep. Fantastic. Next in-breath, go ahead and bend both knees. And then we'll switch sides. So now we're kind of straighten that right leg. We're going to see if we can lift our hips up and back. So it feels like we're tipping at our pelvis. Yeah. And you just breathe. And you breathe. Nice breath. Nice job. Next in-breath, let's go ahead and inhale, bend both of your knees. As you exhale, start to walk your feet towards your face. When you get to the top of your space, you'll separate your feet about hip distance apart. And once we find ourselves here, I want you to just notice, where's the weight in your feet? What's happening in the backs of your legs? How do you feel at the top of your pelvis, through the spine, all the way into your lovely, lovely skull? All right, from here, let's gently bend our knees. And just as we did moments ago, you're going to roll up from your tailbone. So the head is going to be the last thing. You're going to go through the tail, then you're going to go through the low spine and the middle spine, then the rib cage. Then you're going to finally come up through the chest and the head. And when you find yourself upright, you just take a moment to pause and you take a moment to breathe. Fantastic. Once we're vertical, we'll just go ahead and draw our shoulder blades forward. And we'll draw them back. And you've got 4 of these. And again, you're just paying attention. How does it feel? Do you notice any crunchies, any pops, any wiggles? You're going to do a total of 4, so this should be 3. After your 4th one, you'll then go up and down. And again, you just pay attention. What does that feel like? Do you want to hang out a little bit on the upward one or the downward one? Completely fine either way. Okay, we got 2 more. Last one. Okay. From here, let's go ahead and turn our palms forward, then reach the arms out and up and overhead. Once your hands are up and overhead, grab your left wrist with your right hand. Inhale, reach up, and then exhale, happy little baby side bend. Continue to root down through that left foot, and then notice if your hips are square. So we'll draw our right hip back just a little bit, left hip forward just a little bit. And then notice if you can draw your front ribs in and back. Yep. Next in breath, let's go ahead and come back up through center. And then exhale, we'll go to the other side. So again, root down into that right foot. You'll notice here that we'll have to draw the outer right hip forward, so you can do less on this side. Yep. And draw the front ribs back. Yep. Then just breathe into that right side body. Nice work. Next in breath, come back up through center. As you exhale, open the arms out and to the sides, down towards your hips. Great. Starting at your chin, tuck your chin to your chest and start to roll down bone by bone. And again, take your time. Notice if there are parts in the spine where you want to jump and skip and see if you can slow down. Yep. There you go. There you go. Fantastic. And you just take your time. And by the time you finally get to the bottom, you'll notice that you'll reach one point. And then if you decide to grab opposite elbow, it gives your spine a little bit more weight, which gives you a little bit more capacity to fold in just a little bit deeper. Fantastic. From here, gently release your hands to the floor. Inhale, pull your heart and sternum forward and through. Now, as you exhale, bend your knees. Really plant your palms and step your left leg back. Let's see. So let's on the sneeze. Step your right leg back. And suddenly we find ourselves in plank. And now in this plank pose, let's see if we can push our hands down. Lift up through the armpits. Yep. Notice what's happening in your butt and your legs. Are your legs engaged? Are your glutes engaged? Full core action. Fantastic. From here, shift your weight forward And slower than you want to, lower all the way to your mat. Once you find yourself fully on your belly, we're going to, again, start at our pubic bone. So you're going to draw your pubic bone forward. You're going to draw your sternum forward. You're going to see if you can lift your throat forward and then draw your chin towards your chest. Once you're here, isometrically pull your hands back and see if you can pull your heart forward a little bit more. Draw your elbows down towards your hips and down towards the floor, and then engage your legs. Notice what your cobra feels like here, and then exhale, lower all the way down. Curl your toes under, inhale through hands and knees or plank pose, and then exhale back to downward facing dog. 3 breaths. And you just pause and you breathe. What is that thing that you are discovering about you right here, right now? I think it's kind of interesting. If we think about Siddhya in a more philosophical sense, maybe that's the only reason any of us are here, to learn more about ourselves, to experience life through our unique perspective, our unique experiences. And if so, wouldn't it gain or grant or garner rather a little bit more importance than we sometimes give to our own experience? All right, we're going to move on. Inhale, sweep your right leg up and back. Now pause here. Notice, yep, if we can keep our hips square, draw our outer left hip back as we lift up through our right inner thigh. On your next exhale, draw your knee to your nose and gently step that foot between your hands. Fantastic. This is going to suck, I'm not going to lie. We're going to go ahead and shift our weight forward just a smidge. Okay, now I want you to see if on this shape, you can start to push more weight, more of your energy into the pinky toe edge of your right foot. So pinky toe edge of your right foot. Notice how that engages more of your right glute. Then sweep your right arm back alongside your hip. Then sweep your left arm back alongside your left hip. See if you can then find one long line from your left heel through your hips, through your shoulders, through your head, and suddenly your chest comes up just a little bit. From here, turn your palms to face the floor. So we're still in this weird low diagonal. And you'll just pause and you'll breathe and you'll notice what you're noticing here. Now, on our next exhale, we're going to tip forward. Hands are going to touch floor or blocks. The left leg is going to float parallel to the floor. Tip, bing! Yay, we did it. All right. Now, once you're there, you're going to pause. You're going to, again, really reach back through that happy left foot. You're going to really draw that outer right hip back. And then inhale, reach your heart and sternum forward. From here, exhale. Bend your left knee. Curl it back behind your right thigh for a little jiva squat. And then inhale, send the foot back. Next, exhale. Step your left foot in line with your right foot. Forward fold, Uttanasana. And then just take a moment to notice what's the difference between the sides? How is the breath? How is the body? And how are you? Fantastic. All right. Once again, bend your knees and start to roll up your spine, bone by bone by bone. Again, the head is the very last thing to enter into the picture. And you notice that when you take the time to do that, it gives you a sense of stability on your legs. Great. Once we're upright, inhale, circle, sweep your arms up and overhead. This time we're going to grab the outer edge of our left forearm. Inhale, reach up. Now, as you exhale, you're going to push your left forearm to the left. As you pull it to the right, you again root down through your left foot. The tailbone draws under. And I'm going to check in with our rib situation. Sometimes we rotate our ribs. And so see if you can try to keep your hips square, which ironically enough, there we go. And then draw this one forward. There we go. Next in breath, go ahead and come up through center. And then as you exhale, switch sides. So now grab your right forearm, actively push the right forearm to the right as you lift up and over to the left. Hooray, we're doing it. Oh, it's good on this side. And then again, you're rooting down to that right leg. You're squaring your hips as best as you can as you draw your left shoulder forward. Nice work. Inhale, come up through center. As you exhale, arms open out and towards your hips. This time we're going to interlace our hands on our low back. You're going to draw your shoulders up towards your ears, shoulder blades together on your back, and heart just comes up. And just take a breath or two here. Maybe soften the gaze or close the eyes. Okay. When you're ready, gently release your hands. And then again, chin to chest, roll down your spine, taking more time than you think you absolutely need to. And you just roll, and you notice what's happening in the spine, the fascia that's opening on the back line. Nice work. And then again, when you get down to the bottom, once you finally get there, just notice what your Uttanasana forward fold feels like. And then if you want to see if you have a little bit more depth, again, you might grab opposite elbow, or maybe on this side, you might try grabbing the back of your head. And we just want to see if we can really allow the whole length of our back line to start to open. All right. Gently release your hands to the floor. Inhale, pull your heart and sternum forward and through. And then exhale, we're going to bend our knees. We're going to plant our palms. This time we'll step our right leg back and we'll step our left leg back. Happy jappy plank. And you just pause here for a couple of breath cycles. And you notice now, how is the weight in your hands? Is it more on the right hand or the left? Is it on the inside, the outside? Is it even? Next in breath, shift your weight forward. And as you exhale slower than you want to, all the way down to the mat. Okay. This time, again, we're starting at the pelvis, but let's go ahead and think of drawing our pubic bone towards our belly button towards our sternum towards our chin forward in space. Isometrically push down into your hands, pull your hands back to lift your sternum and heart forward a little bit more. Engage your legs and see if you can squeeze your glutes and maybe push your toes down. And maybe you lift a little higher into your cobra, maybe you don't. Next exhale, lower all the way down. Curl your toes under. Inhale through hands and knees or plank. And then exhale back to downward facing dog. 3 breaths. 3 breaths. And you just pause and you breathe. What is happening right here, right now in this shape? Erica, bend your knees just a little bit for me. And then tilt just at your pelvis. Yeah. And then from there, see if you can put your hands forward. Yep. And then if you want to straighten the legs, fantastic. All right, so let's try the other side now. So inhale, sweep your left leg up and back, and you just pause there for a moment. You draw your outer right hip back. You push back through your left heel and lift through your inner left thigh. Next exhale, draw your knee to your nose and gently plant that foot between your hands. Now, once your foot is there, again, we're going to take a couple of breaths here to just get stable. And it's really coming from rooting from the outer edge of your left foot. So left glute muscles, all that feels like that engages. And then once you're set there, you sweep your left arm back alongside your hip. You sweep your right arm back alongside your hip. You turn the palms to the floor and then see if you can lift your spine just a little bit. So you're in one long diagonal from your heel, through your hip, through your shoulders, through your crown. And you pause and you breathe. And you pause and you breathe. Nice work, guys. On your next exhale, we're going to find that tip. So the hands come to the floor of the blocks. The right leg lifts parallel to the floor. And bloop, there we go. We found it. And your right leg is just as active as it was a second ago. And you're pushing down into your left foot. And you're reaching forward and through for your heart. Nice job. On your next exhale, we're going to find that Jiva squat. So the right leg is going to curl back behind you. Bend your left knee. And then inhale, you send the leg back parallel-ish to the floor. Fantastic. Gently bend the right knee, step the right foot in line with your left foot. Fantastic. And you just pause and you breathe and you notice what you notice. How's the breath? How's the body? How are you? All right. Okay, with your feet still hip distance apart, we're going to inhale, bring your fingers to the floor or blocks, halfway lift. And then exhale, fold in. Keep your fingers on the floor or blocks. Bend your knees. Inhale, sweep your heart forward. And then from here, let's sweep our arms back alongside our hips. Now, from here, first things, turn your palms to face the floor. Now, see if you can shift your weight back just a little bit. And then you're going to start to squeeze your glutes and then lift your chest. Awesome. Press onto the outer edges of your feet, the outer edges of your hips, and then you might reach your arms forward. Happy zombies. You might reach your arms alongside your ears, but suddenly our legs are working a whole hell of a lot more than they might ordinarily. And you just pause and you breathe. See if you can settle a little bit lower in your seat. Yeah. On your next in breath, you'll stand up, you'll reach up, you'll look up. And then as you exhale, arms open out into the floor, close or soften the eyes, and you just take a breath here. And you notice what you notice. How's the breath? How's the body? How are you? All right. If balance is an issue, let's go ahead and open our eyes again. If balance is an issue, you might want to touch a wall. Otherwise, we're going to do this in the center. So, ooh, I lied. Let's bring our blocks to the top just in case if we want to use them. We might not use them, but might as well use them if we can. All right, cool. Now from here, we'll just start with a little quad stretch. So shift your weight to your right leg, bend your left knee, grab your left foot with your left hand. And again, if balance is an issue, we got a wall. Otherwise, we're just holding on to our hip. And the first thing we want to notice is see if we can draw our knees to touch. And then notice if they're in alignment. Sometimes my knee feels like it wants to be a little further forward than it needs to be. And we just notice there's a lot of work going on our right ankle, and that's totally fine. Oh my God, Alexia is doing it with us. That's fantastic. All right, and then gently release that left leg forward. Some of you will just keep your hands where they are on your hips. Some of you will add a little bit more weight. So if you push down into your leg and you kick up into your leg, you'll notice that suddenly you've got stuff happening on your psoas, hip flexors on this side. And for me, it feels like it gives me more stability on my right leg. Awesome. From there, we'll release our hands to heart center. You're going to bend your right knee. You're going to cross the left ankle over, and we want to find a hinge. So we haven't really found a hinge at our hip. We're going to hinge at our hip. So those of us that felt hip stuff, we'll find that there. And again, the blocks are right there for like, yeah, I want to touch something of support. Otherwise, you might keep your hands at heart center, or if you're at a wall, hands are on the wall. And you just pause and you breathe here and you notice, what are we discovering about ourselves in this moment, in our experience of our body, in the experience of our breath, maybe even the thoughts that come up as we're here. Nice job. When you're ready to come out, if hands are on blocks or forward, they float back to heart center. And then you're going to come up to stand vertically, one-legged Tadasana. And we made it, and we relax that foot down. And if you want to wiggle it out, shake it out, walk around, do whatever the heck you want to, but we have to try the other side. That's cute. Okay, and then we'll try the other side. Hands come to hips. Shift your weight to your left leg. Float the right leg up. And then again, we're going to take our right hand to the right ankle. Draw the leg behind us, or rather heel behind us, and then check it with our knees. Sometimes the knee wants to go a little forward or back. So if we draw them together and then draw them down. And then the next thing that we're going to check is what's happening in our tailbone, what's happening in the rest of our spine. Yep. We just pause and we breathe. Awesome sauce. From there, let's release. The right leg is going to come forward. And again, maybe we just float here, one-legged Tadasana. Maybe we decide we want to give ourselves a little bit of resistance. Woo! And you just push down as you kick up, and you notice what that does in the core, what that does in the supporting leg. Great. Hands come to heart center. Start to bend your left knee, cross the right ankle over, and we're hinging at the hips. So we did a lot of rounding earlier, but now we're just keeping that spine super duper straight. And as we come there, maybe we find our hands wanting to touch those blocks. Maybe they reach to the floor. Maybe if we're at a wall, we touch the wall. And then I didn't say this on the first side, but I probably should say this now. We want to make sure that our right hip isn't dipping to the floor. And that sort of changes what we experience on that right outer hip as we're here. Yes, no? Yeah. It's like, yeah, okay. Well, I don't know about that one. I'm not happy with that one. Yeah. So it's different. Not so much fun, maybe necessarily, but we want to be there and then see if maybe you can draw that right knee forward just a smidge. And then that also changes what you might feel under that outer right hip. Yes? No?
Yeah. Okay. It's all stretching, just
different. Okay. All right. Well, we're ready to come out. I know that's such a silly question. Technically, everything is stretchy everywhere and every sensation is different. So I guess I shouldn't be attached to it. All right. All right. And then we'll go ahead and release that down and shake that out. It's funny though, because it's like I have a yin teacher who says she doesn't care what you do as long as you feel it where you're supposed to feel it. But technically, you can feel it different places because of how the body's developed. So, oh well. All right. Oh, yeah. And you're not hurting yourself. Yeah.
yeah. Good, both ways.
Oh, all right. Let's move on. Let's stand at the top of our space. And then I want you to just notice if you soften the gaze or close the eyes, what you feel now. Our self-awareness also is this other thing that has to be I don't know if it's measured is the right word I want to say, but like we sometimes have to check in and see how we're feeling. And it changes moment by moment. And if we can notice that, sometimes we can be, I don't know, positively surprised by it. All right, let's move on. Inhale, circle, sweep your arms up and overhead. Find as much length as you can. And then as you exhale, we're going to hinge at the hips. So our first Uttanasana forward fold is one ordinarily might do that. And then inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. This time as you exhale, bend your knees, plant your palms, step your left leg back, step your right leg back. Happy plank. Take a breath cycle in here. On your next exhale, shift your weight forward, lower all the way through chaturanga slower than you want to. And then you'll either inhale through upward facing dog, or you'll find yourself on your belly and come into cobra. And it's totally up to you. And then on your next exhale, you make your way through hands and knees or plank and back to downward facing dog. And you just pause and you breathe. And you pause and you breathe and you notice what you notice. Where's the breath now? What's happening in your ankles? Is there a wrinkle in the front of your ankle? And is it even for the inner ankle and the outer ankle? Great. Let's move on. So we're going to start with the left leg this time. So inhale, sweep your left leg up and back. As you exhale, step the foot quietly between your hands. Now at this point, you might want to bring your hands to your blocks. You might not. But we're going to step our right foot a little bit to the right and spin your right foot to the floor. And then again, just as we did before, but slightly different, let's start by pressing into the pinky toe edge of our right foot. And then I want you to see if you can press into the knife or the outer edge of your left foot, left heel. And sweep your left hand back and sweep your right hand back. Again, push down into the feet. Now this time you're going to suck your feet together to bring your spine all the way up to vertical. Once you feel like you're somewhat vertical, I want you to see if you can draw your outer left hip back, push down into your right pinky foot, pinky toe, and then we'll reach the arms out and up and overhead. And with your arms up and overhead, notice where you want your spine to be. Sometimes it feels better to be forward on a diagonal just a little bit. Sometimes it feels great to just be straight up. But just notice what feels appropriate for you. And then see if you can lift up through the pinky fingers even more. So the ribs lift away from the hips. Fantastic. On your next exhalation, we'll open to Virabhadrasana 2, so Warrior 2. You'll need to notice whether or not you want to wiggle walk that right foot back, whether you want to walk the left foot a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left. And then just observe what's happening here. Once you find yourself in your Warrior 2, again, press into the knife edge of your back foot. Draw the outer left hip back. And then is there as much energy in your front arm as your back arm? What about your front ribs and your back ribs? On your next inhale, flip the left palm and then reverse your warrior and just take a breath cycle here. So we did those side bends earlier, but how is it different in this moment? How is it different in the shape? Great. Next in breath, return to Warrior 2. This time as you exhale, left hand comes to forearm, left hand comes to forearm, left forearm comes to knee, or maybe left hand comes to floor, and then your right arm extends alongside your ears. And so we'll just find how our extended side angle feels to us. And again, we're drawing your outer left hip back. We're pressing onto the knife edge of our right foot, and we just pause and we breathe. And then we notice, is there a way for the sternum to come forward and our heart to lean back? Great. Next in breath, we're going to come to a low lunge facing the top of our space. Cool. This is going to be awkward. You're going to step your right foot all the way behind into the outside edge of your left thigh and sit your butt down. Right. We're just going to stay here. You're going to draw your legs towards each other, maybe wrap right arm around left leg. Okay. And then inhale, lift. I was like, wait, maybe I said the wrong thing. Lift up through your spine and then just gentle rotation towards your left. So Ardha Matsyendrasana. Yep. And you just pause and you breathe. And you just notice what you notice here. Can you lift the sternum a little bit? Can you soften the shoulders away from the ears? Yep. Next in breath, let's unwind. Come back to the front of our mat. Right leg steps back, low lunge. Left leg steps back, plank pose. Great. Shift your weight forward and then lower through chaturanga. You might come into a cobra or an up dog, your choice, but you just pause and you breathe. If you're in cobra or up dog, rather, make sure your legs are active, toes are active. Yep. And then exhale back to downward facing dog. 3 breaths. 3 breaths. And you just pause and you breathe. How are the legs now? How's the body now? How is the breath now? All right, let's move on. Inhale, sweep your right leg up and back. As you exhale, step the right foot quietly between your hands. Maybe you bring your hands to your blocks, maybe you don't. And then we'll step our left foot slightly to the left and spin our left foot down for warrior one. Great. Again, press into the knife edge of your back foot. Keep bending through your front knee as you press onto the outer edge of your right heel. Sweep your right hand back, sweep your left hand back, and then find that diagonal with your spine from your heel to your hip, through your shoulders, through your head. Then when you're ready, squeeze your legs together and come all the way upright. Great. Once you find yourself here, see if you can draw that outer right hip back. You might need to internally rotate that left leg a little bit more, and then inhale, sweep the arms up and overhead. And then again, notice, do you want to be straight up with the spine? Do you want to be a little bit forward? You're just finding what feels appropriate to you. And sometimes you have to experiment a little bit. Our awareness isn't this like one and done type of thing. It's a constant re-examination of what we think to be true, what we've taught to be true. All right. On your next in breath, find a little bit more length. And then as you exhale, open to Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. Once you find yourself in your Warrior 2, notice what adjustments you want to make in your legs. You want your feet a little further apart, right to left, front to back. Notice if maybe you want to turn in the back toes a little bit more so it gives you the capacity to sit a little bit lower into your legs. Great. And then you observe what's happening in the back hand versus the front hand, what's happening in the back ribs versus the front ribs, what's happening up through the spine and out through the chest. Fantastic. When you're ready, you'll flip your front palm and you will reverse your warrior. And you just take a couple of breaths here. How is the breath entering your right side body? What's happening in your neck? What's reaching out through your right fingertips? On your next in breath, return to Virabhadrasana 2. And then as you're ready, maybe right forearm comes to the top of the right thigh. Maybe hands come to blocks or floor. And then that left arm is alongside your ears. And again, notice. Sometimes I find that when I'm in extended side angle, I want to internally rotate my back leg just a little bit more. It allows me to sit a little deeper into the front leg, but it also gives me a fun stretch across the front of my left thigh. And you just pause and you breathe. And then notice if the right ribs can come under. Yep, left ribs can spiral up. Fantastic. On your next in-breath, let's go ahead and come to face the top of our mat, low lunge. And then once we find ourselves here, you're going to step that back foot. So the left foot's going to come outside and behind your right. And you sit your pelvis down for Ardha Matsyendrasana. Oh, you got there. All right. And then we're going to wrap and draw that right leg towards us and bring our left hand around our right thigh, right hand back behind us. And then a couple of breaths. You just sit tall. You lift up through the sternum. And then you think about really drawing the right ribs away from the right thigh. Nice. All right. On your next in-breath, let's gently unwind. We'll come back to face the top of our space. Left leg's going to go back, low lunge. Right leg's going to go back, plank pose. And you just pause and you breathe. As you're ready, you'll shift your weight forward. You'll lower through chaturanga or all the way to your belly, and then find yourself into up dog or cobra. And you just pause and you breathe. When you're ready, make your way back to downward facing dog. And then from downward facing dog, we're going to find ourselves into child's pose. And you just take a couple of breaths. In your child's pose, you might want your arms forward. Sometimes I find it nice to have my hands as little fists in my belly. You might want your arms back. But you just take a couple of breaths here and you just notice. Notice what you notice. How is the breath? How is the body? How are you? All right. As you're ready, let's find ourselves to hands and knees and then make your way back to downward facing dog. From down dog, I want you to slowly shift your pelvis right to left. And just notice what that feels like to you. Slowly little shifts of right to left. And then once you feel balanced between the sides, you'll come to center. You might try lifting the heels up and away from the floor and then lowering them back down and try that a few times. Just notice what's happening in your shoulders as you do that. Okay. Some of you might decide we're going to make our way to the top of our mat. Some of you might decide you want to bend your knees and hop. Some of you might want to just, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
It's an exercise ring, though. Nice job. So Erica can go to Shavasana. Her ring just told her that she can go to Shavasana, or her watch rather. Her exercise ring is closed. Okay, so once we find ourselves in forward fold, this one we're going to do twice, okay? So the first time, I want you to notice if you can keep your legs straight. If you keep your legs straight, it is going to be hard, I'm not going to lie. If you bend your knees, it's a little bit more forgiving on your hamstrings. So you get to choose what you want to do, but you're going to roll up your spine slower than you want to. And if your legs are straight, it is going to tax your hamstrings. And you're just rolling up and you're letting your head be the last thing to come up to vertical. And you're just feeling that connection of the hamstrings or sit bones rather to the heels along the hamstrings, right? That was the first time. And then you're going to roll back down, again, starting from the crown of your head and going slower than you want to. Again, with the legs straight, this is going to tax the hamstrings. And just notice if you can soften your front ribs. You can let go of any unnecessary muscular tension. So just letting gravity do this, and we're trying to work ourselves against it. All right, that looks good. Susan Klein would be proud. Okay, and then you're going to do that one more time. This time, though, I want you to imagine, and by imagine, you can actually bring your hand to your tailbone because sometimes that helps. You're going to actually touch your tailbone. Really bottom base of the spine. It's kind of really a pointy bone. Feels like a finger to me sometimes. But you're going to imagine that that part of your spine is initiating this movement. So it's going to drop down, and then the tailbone's going to start to come forward through your pelvis towards your pubic bone. And then you're going to notice that you want to still keep drawing your tailbone down. And as you keep just focusing on the tailbone, your spine will naturally start to come up because you're drawing your tailbone down, forward and down and forward. Your head is again the last thing to come to vertical. And then the chest opens and you just notice how that feels. Great. Then you just take a breath and you take a pause. All right. If gaze is closed, let's open our eyes again. Let's put our blocks at the top of our space on their lowest setting. I wonder if that's harder with those. That'll be interesting. Okay. And then we're going to bring our feet in between our blocks. Cool. So we're just going to do this in pieces, and you're going to see which option feels best to you. Sometimes it feels, I feel like I'm a little too close to you, Jenny. It feels different depending upon how we do it. So the first thing you're just going to do is just bend your knees. You're going to lift your left heel. We're just bouncing, we're bouncing. And then when you feel like you've got enough momentum, we're going to do momentum, bloop, up comes the left leg. Great. Now we notice how that feels. Suddenly we were moving and then we're stuck. And then we're going to bring our right foot to our left block. You're going to bend your knees. Wow, right block. Yeah, sorry about that. That's my left block, but not yours. And then you're going to see if you can hug your outer knees together. And then notice if you can sit your butt a little lower. And again, we're kind of bouncing here. It feels like it's just a nice little thing. All right. We're going to stay there. And let's find a stillness and squeeze our outer hips together. And we can bring our hands to heart center. And some of you will stay right here. Some of you will reach your arms forward like happy little zombies. You'll cross your left arm underneath. You'll give yourself a happy hug, or maybe you'll double wrap your arms. And you just pause. And again, we're hugging those knees together. And again, you might choose to stay here. You might be like, I want to see what happens if I release my left foot from the block and maybe wrap my left toes towards or behind my right calf. We just pause and we breathe and we notice what's happening, right? And then when you're ready to come out, the toes come back to the block, the hands unwind, we straighten up, we release the leg, and we come back to center. Let me try that on the other side. That was bad.
No.
Okay.
Yes. Easier.
Right? Surprisingly. Um, oh, self-compassion. There we go. And then we're going to start at the beginning again. Yeah, believe that. Yeah, my teacher told me to do it. I'm being a great student. Give me an A plus. Um, I know. I really want that A plus. And then we're going to go ahead and lift our right heel. And then we're bouncing. I feel like I hear a music, a song in my head, and I want to sassy my hip, but I shouldn't do that. And then at some point, right, it does. It feels like yeah. And then you're going to just press down. Got enough momentum. Leg comes up. Oh, great. And we'll start to bend that left knee and we'll cross the right toes over to that block again. And you might find you want to bounce again. I just like the bounce. It gives me connection to the floor, gives me connection to gravity, natural forces in life. Okay. And then we want to focus on squeezing those outer knees together. So outer knees are really touching. And you might just stay here. You might bring hands to heart center. You might reach arms forward like happy zombies. Right arm comes under, left arm on top, and maybe you give yourself a hug and stay there. Maybe you double wrap the arms. And again, happy to stay here. Or maybe you just start to lift that right toe away from the block. Maybe it reaches toward the outside edge or maybe even behind the left calf. And again, it's not so important what's happening. It's just, are you breathing? Are we aware of what's going on? Maybe that right toe comes back to the block. We go ahead and unwind the arms. We straighten the leg. And thank God we're done with that. All right. Go ahead and shake it out, move around a little bit. And then you'll move your blocks off the upper outer quarters of your mat. Find yourself again at the top of your space. And we're going to just try a Surya Namaskar because we haven't done that this whole time. All right. So inhale, circles with your arms. And then exhale, hinge forward at your hips. Uttanasana, forward fold. From there, you'll inhale, pull your heart and sternum forward and through, Uttanasana or Ardha Uttanasana. And then exhale, bend your knees, plant your palms, right leg back, left leg back, plank pose. Inhale, shift your weight forward and through. Exhale through Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale to your upward facing dog or cobra. And exhale back to downward facing dog. And you just pause and you breathe. And you pause and you breathe. Great. When you're ready, you'll lower your knees to the mat. Find child's pose once again. Maybe you take the toe squat version, maybe not. You just pause and you breathe. Great. And then we're going to move on. Let's come forward to forearms and knees. Bring your palms to touch and make sure your elbows, or rather, yeah, your elbows are slightly inside of your shoulders. The palms touch in a prayer position. And then you're going to round through your spine like little Halloween cats. And then from there, push down through your forearms, lift up through your hips. And then you'll straighten the legs, whatever extent you wish to. And we'll find a couple of breaths here in dolphin pose. And today, I want you to really pay attention to what's happening in your shoulders, your upper thoracic spine. So as you really push down into those forearms, notice what's happening in the shoulders, what's happening around the rib cage where the shoulder blades could come to touch. You might notice if you want to walk your feet in or not, but we're just going to pause here for a couple of breaths. You just pause and breathe. And when you're done with that, you'll lower down back to child's pose. And then from child's pose, let's go ahead to sit on our heels in Vajrasana or sit on a block in Virasana. And then soften your gaze and close your eyes. And just take a moment to pause here. And you just notice. Our self-study is very valuable, but it's only as valuable as we give ourselves permission to really attend to it. It's one of those things that in all your years on the planet, you are so proud of yourself for having mastered. Might be something as simple as setting boundaries, speaking up. And I say simple because I don't know, I find that challenging at times. It might be something else of like, oh, I really like X. I really enjoy having a nice cup of coffee or, something simple. It doesn't have to be earth shattering. And then after you've taken note of that, see if you can send an internal prayer of gratitude for that awareness, that gift that you just gave to yourself for honoring your own unique light and being. All right, let's go ahead and open our eyes again. If you are sitting on a block, you can probably stay on the block depending upon how long your arms are. But we're going to bring our hands back behind us. And we're just going to come to the tips of our fingertips. You're going to draw your shoulder blades together and just lift your heart and sternum up. And just notice what that feels like. Maybe you can elongate through the back of the neck and let more of the chest come forward and come up. You just feel a gentle back bend there. Awesome. From here, let's come to sit again straight. Come forward onto hands and knees. Find yourself into your plank pose. And as slowly as you wish to, you're going to lower all the way down to your belly. Slowly as you wish to. Slowly as you wish to. Slowly as you wish to. Awesome. Once you find yourself on your belly, let's go ahead and extend our right arm forward. And then roll over onto your right side. And then roll over onto your back. And then reposition yourself on your mat if you rolled off. Cool. All right, so this next one is going to be slightly complicated. I'm giving you a heads up, so we want to listen very closely. Let's go ahead and first start by lifting our butt and sliding our butt over to the left. Then put your butt back down. Go ahead and draw your left knee into your chest. And your right leg you can extend long if you'd like. Then we're going to draw our left leg all the way over to the floor on the right side of our body. So it's going to cross all the way over to the right side of the body, all the way onto the floor, all the way onto the floor. Great. And now you've got that right leg behind you. See if you can draw the right leg even further back behind you. So it feels like it's awkwardly back there. Great. Some of you will stay here. Some of you will bend that right knee. You'll grab that right foot with your left hand. Fantastic. Now, once you're in this awkward pose, I like to really let my left knee come all the way to the floor where it feels like I'm in a half frog and my belly is towards the floor. And then I can find a quad stretch on that right thigh. And for some reason, the more my belly can come to the floor and that left leg really can come to the floor, it changes where I feel the sensation on the quadricep of the right leg. All the way over, like you're literally almost on your belly. And here it seems like, at least for me, I get a quad stretch that's a genuine quad stretch instead of in my knee or in my hip, probably because the floor can't let me cheat. Like, okay. And some of you are just going to stay here. This is a fantastic place to be. I love spending a couple minutes in this shape. My favorite place to be. Some of you might be like, yeah, Jessica, I think I want to up the ante a little bit. And if you're like wanting to do that, that's fantastic. If you're not, that's fantastic too. I don't really care. But some of you might decide to roll back onto your back, keeping your hand on your right leg. And you'll find that your spine is now twisted. Your chest is up towards the floor. Now here you can take that right hand to touch your left thigh. And we're in this weird shape called twisted monkey. And I feel like a monkey here because it's a very awkward shape. And then once you're there, notice that you can draw that top hip away from you. It feels like you're arching your back just a smidgen. And so as the left hip comes away from your left shoulder, that's the top hip, you can then maybe roll more of your chest towards the sky, and you just pause and you breathe, and you pause and you breathe. And we notice that this is such an awkward shape. Good line. And then when you're ready, you'll gently release and come back onto your back. And notice if you feel any swirls when you finally get onto your back. Sometimes I don't feel the spinning or the twisting of the body until I come out of the shape. And then I find myself back on my back and like, wow, that was fun. And I just take a couple of breaths and you pause and you breathe and you notice what you notice. All right, I'm gonna try the awkward shape on the other side. So go ahead and bend your knees if your legs are long. First step is you're gonna draw your butt over to the right and put your butt back down. Then draw your right knee into your chest. The left leg can go straight, long beneath you. Now, once you're here, you're going to cross your right leg all the way over to the left side of the body to the floor. All the way to the left side of the body to the floor. Great. And then again, happy to stay here, always an option. Some of you will start to spin more of your belly to the floor. So the right leg is going to come more to the left. It'll feel like you're going more towards a half frog, and you'll draw your back leg back behind you a little bit to bend the knee and grab, what does that make it? Your left foot with your right hand. And then again, the more that you can really let your abdomen fall to the floor, you'll find that you can change the sensation that's happening on the quadricep of your left leg. And the other thing that you can do while you're here is notice what happens if you internally and or externally rotate that left leg. It definitely also changes what's happening in your quad. And you just pause and you breathe. And then notice what's happening in your tailbone as well. Is it lengthening back towards your left knee? And just as we said before, some of you will stay right here. Some of you will decide that you want to up the ante a little bit or explore the twist. So you'll start to roll back onto your back. If you do start to come back onto your back, you still hold on to your left leg, and then maybe your left hand comes to the top of your right thigh. And then maybe you inchworm your left shoulder more to the left so that more of your chest can open to the right. And then we want to notice if that right hip can come slightly away from your right shoulder. Feels like just a little gentle arch. And Jenny, can that leg come a little bit back? Yeah. Is that okay? Okay. I'm just going to draw that down just a little bit. So think of softening here so that you have a long line here. And then we just rotate across our abdomen. So that is our left abdomen up towards the sky. We just pause, let this come away, and we breathe. Awesome. And then when you're ready, you'll gently release. You'll find yourself onto your back slow. And just notice what happens as you slowly unwind the legs and unwind the torso. All right. Cool. From here, let's bend our knees if our legs are straight. Draw your feet together. So the inner edges of your feet touch. We've been doing this lately, so I think most of you know where we're going to go. But you're going to open your knees wide, but keep the soles of the feet on the floor. And then push down through your feet, lift your hips high. Once your hips are high, you're going to slowly draw your knees together, slower than that. There we go. And then once you get to this middle, you squeeze your knees together. You squeeze the back of your happy butt, and then you lower your pelvis back down. We're going to do that a total of 4 times. So widen your knees as much as you want. Keep the feet to touch. And here you're going to push into a bridge pose. And then when you're up, you take your time to slowly draw your knees together. And you want to make sure that your right leg and your left leg are working at the same rate, same rate, same rate, same rate, same rate, same rate. Haha. And then once you get to the midline, so you can squeeze your inner thighs together. Notice your happy little glutes. And then lower your butt back down. Nice job. 2 more times on your own. So again, knees open. Push through your feet. Lift your hips. Yeah. And then draw your knees together. And notice that both legs have to work at the same rate. So a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more. Yep, 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 yep. Hold it at the top. There we go. And then lower down. Last time on your own. And you just pause and you breathe. And you pause and you breathe. And this is, I really like this bridge pose. I feel like it really stabilizes my outer hips and it integrates my sacrum in a way that the normal bridge doesn't. Especially those of you that are runners, this is a really good one for you. So Jenny, press more with your right knee here. Right knee comes in a little bit more into your midline. So like this leg isn't working as much as that leg. And so see now that I'm holding, you have to really engage. Ha, ow.
I mean, like it's working out.
Okay. Yeah, and then go ahead and lower it down. And then once you're done with that, widen your feet outside of your hips. Let your knees come in towards midline and wrap your arms around your torso, giving yourself a happy hug, constructive rest. And you're going to take about 4 to 5 more long, slow, deep breaths here. They can be as audible as you'd like. Noticing that there is this weird release that comes with letting the breath be audible. It's like feels like a cleanse almost. So if you want to take big breaths, go ahead and do that. Uh, Maybe they have some sound to them, a little bit of a sighing action. Oh, yeah. And then after you've taken 4 or 5 breaths with this arm on top, you'll go ahead and inhale and switch sides. Yeah, nice, loud, fluffy breath if you'd like. Oh, oh, yeah. And after you've taken 4 or 5 breaths here, you'll just check in and notice if there's anything else that your body feels like it would like at this moment. Maybe you want to take a supported bridge or supported legs up the wall. Maybe Supta Baddha Konasana or a happy baby feels like it would be fantastic to you. Maybe you just want to straight up go to Shavasana or stay where you are. Our self study is one of those things, people say, when you know better, you do better. But the important thing is once we know better, we do have to give ourselves permission to do the do. Knowing something but not acting on it isn't, well, I don't know. Doesn't seem like it does much use if we don't act upon it. But you know, and then you do. And if you try something and it doesn't work out, that's fantastic. Try something else. And if that doesn't work, that's great. You learn something, try something else. And you'll just take your time. You've got about, I don't know, 2 or 3 more minutes doing whatever the heck you happen to be doing. And then once you feel like you are complete, there is no rush. You will set yourself up for whatever your final resting pose of the day will be. Whatever it is, I just encourage you to pick something that is symmetrical. And then once you find yourselves in your symmetrical shape, notice if there's any part of the body that feels like it would like a little bit more attention. Maybe that attention is breath. Sometimes that attention could be a little bit of muscle engagement and then muscular release. And then once you feel settled in physical form, come and revert it. Or you can do it yourself. You got it. You will find that we're going to bring our awareness now to our breath. And when we find ourselves in our breath, I want you to notice where your breath is most active for you, most vibrant, the most full, the most effortless. And that changes for all of us day to day, moment to moment. You might notice that the breath is very active, maybe in your nostrils. You might find that it's most easeful in the chest and the ribs. Maybe it's the most full and vibrant in the abdomen. Wherever the breath is most alive for you, just allow your awareness to rest there. And in particular, I want you to notice if there's a almost expansive quality. Um, Samana is the term that we use in yoga. It's the sense of expanding outwards. Manavayu is what it's called. And you're just noticing where that breath is and seeing if it has this sense of radiance to it, sense of expansion, of growth. And that expansion, that growth, that self awareness, sometimes it's very small, sometimes it's very subtle. But the more you start to attune to it, you'll notice its depth, notice its power. I'll go ahead and leave you here with you for the next few moments, the next few breaths, and I'll let you know when it's time to come out. Return your awareness to your breath. As you come back to your breath, just take a moment to check in. If there's any part of you longing to linger in this shape, please stay here. When you are ready to move, allow movement to re-enter into your physical form in whatever way feels good to you. Again, those in stillness, stay in stillness. Those in movement, you'll start to make your way to one of your sides and you'll pause there for a few breaths. After you've taken a few breaths on your side, you'll slowly press up to a tall and comfortable seat. And then when you are vertical, again, just as we began, take the opportunity to get comfortable in the seat, kind of like taking the opportunity to get comfortable with ourselves as we are. Um, that's the other part of Svidhyaya. We learn about things that are our own unique quirks or, I don't know, just idiosyncratic things. And we develop an appreciation for them as they are, as we are. And so you just take a couple of breaths here. Again, bringing your awareness to the shoulders being aligned over the hips, the ears over the shoulders, to relaxing the tongue in your mouth, to relaxing the jaw, the eyes and the sockets, skin across your forehead. And then just take 3 breaths. We'll complete our practice with a collective breath, followed by a collective Om. Bring your hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra. Again, really connect the right hand to the left to the right. Experience the weight of the sternum and the thumbs connecting and joining. And then gently exhale all the breath from your mouth. Take a big breath in through the nose. Audible breath out. Inhale for Om. Join if you'd like. Om. Draw your thumbs to your third eye. May our thoughts be clear. Draw your thumbs to your lips. May our words be kind. And then draw your thumbs to your heart center. May our hearts be open. That light, that breath, that awareness within me honors and salutes the light, the breath, the awareness within each of you. Namaste.